as the world grapples with the deadly coronavirus, COVID-19, which is now getting under control, there is yet another virus which is equally deadly, and there is apprehension that how will we get this virus under control. Well, I am talking about the deadly, the dreaded, the feared Taliban. There is a growing discussion about this group and its variants. Like the coronavirus, there was an expectation that Taliban, in its reformed avatar, would be Taliban 2.0. But has it become 2.0? That is the question which we need to grapple with, we need to watch, and as we go through this signature event of Chandigarh Military Literary Festival, we need to ruminate, reflect, discuss on this topic, because the space where it exists is the geopolitical center of the world. It lies at confluence of cultures where various civilizations, the Persian, Turkish, Cynic, the Russian, Buddhist, and in its earlier versions, Indian civilization was all there. In the decade of 79 to 89, Russians had to fight Mujahideen. Before that, there was Parcham Party, Khalak Party, which had leanings towards left. And it's not as if Afghanistan was always like this. It was ruled by some very modern looking rulers. And that was the time when Afghanistan had education, girls wore skirts, there was music, there was fun, and there was a lot of acceptance of diversity, pluralism. So that was the kind of rule which was there. When Russians came in, they tried to keep up this aspect, but they were not acceptable because that was an era of Cold War. So Americans wouldn't take it. America was fighting Russians in Africa, and they didn't want Russians to succeed here. So they propagated, they brought up what is called a concept of jihad. So here, under Hamid Gul, and actually it all started from the time of even Bhutto. They tried to bring up these people. They initially used to call them Jamatis. They sort of gave them the cloak of Mujahideen, and they were having dreams of setting up TAPI over here. TAPI is Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, oil pipeline. So, and huge big monies involved in that. So TAPI has to be policed, and this breed of people were being initially harnessed for pipeline police to provide security. Later, Americans gave them a shape of Mujahideen, and you would have heard of Gulbuddin, Hikmatyar, Ahmad Shah Massoud. They were all part of this. Rashid Dostum, Uzbek warlord. So they fought, and they fought Russians, and Russians got thrown out. So coming back to that decade where Russians were being contested and Mujahideens were being propagated, finally Russians left. And that was the time, if you remember, India was on the side of Russians. That is the time, in 1994, Pakistanis came up with another brainwave. And now they invented another sort of grouping, they called it Taliban. Taliban is derived from a Pashto word which means talib, knowledge, education. So these were so-called students of madrasa. There is this famous seminary cum madrasa, more like a jihad university, which is at Akhora Khattak in northwest frontier province near Peshawar, and this became the forming up place. So forming up place or rallying ground, assembly area was Akhora Khattak, and from here these people were put in power. So they got into power in 1996 and they ruled for 5 long years Afghanistan. Well, their rule was not so bad because initially they appealed to people. There is so much of corruption in northwest frontier province and in Afghanistan. There was so much of corruption under Mujahideen and earlier rulers that any change is welcome. So when 2001 9/11 happened, America had to do something, and they wanted to get at Osama bin Laden. Though it's not been proved that he was the real mastermind, there are some theories to say that it was even helped by or financed by certain parts of Saudi royal family. But easy target was Osama bin Laden and Taliban. So they intervened over here and they got Pakistan to toe their line. So Americans were here for 2 decades, full 20 years, spent billions of dollars, lost 2,000 odd people. There was also a coalition of Resolute Force or NATO sort of staffed, and they also lost people. So many contractors. So after all this, and in between, what Americans did is they tried to do something called as bond process, through which they put Hamid Karzai in power. Later, they had another variant of that, and they removed Hamid Karzai and they put Ashraf Ghani in power. Now, both Hamid Karzai and Ashraf Ghani are Pashtuns. Okay, that's okay. Pashtuns make about 45% of Afghanistan. And who are the rest? Rest are about 15 to 20% Tajiks, Uzbeks, Hazaras, Ismailis and other tribes. There are 14 of them. And people normally in the south and towards the east are Pashtuns. The areas of Jalalabad, Kandahar, they are Pashtuns. And towards the north of Kabul are Hazaras, Tajiks and Uzbeks. And towards the west, naturally towards the side of Iran, are Ismailis who are Shias. So Shias make about 10 odd % of Afghan population. And Ranjit Singh actually, Hari Singh Nalwa fought with Hazara warlords at that time. So here we have this complex mix of ethnicity. People in the south speak what is called as Pashto or Balochi language. People in the north speak Darri, which is sort of a dialectized version of Persian. So there is this influence of Persian and Pashto. Some of it is contending. So here we had a situation that Americans went through these processes and put para-drop leaders from top. Hamid Karzai is from a minor clan. There are various clans within Pashtuns also, Yusufzai, Poplazai, Stanikzai, Gilzai. Like that, he leads one of the minor clans. They are all from feudal families. Ashraf Ghani is also from one smaller clan. They are not from the main clan. And these people did not have their roots really in Afghanistan. Ashraf Ghani was a professor in America. He wrote that famous book, How to Tackle failed states, but he could not tackle one which was given to him. So after all these processes, and Americans were told to engage with Taliban, they did not. So they, in Doha, they realized that they can do nothing, and they virtually handed over Afghanistan for resolution to Pakistan and Taliban. Now, the situation is that when it was being negotiated and discussed in 2020, the agreement was done sometimes in July 2020, what was assured to the world is that Taliban will follow 4 or 5 cardinal principles. What are those? The first one is that it will make an inclusive government. The government will represent all tribes. That means besides Pashtuns, it will also have Tajiks, Uzbeks, Hazaras and Shias, and all will be included in that. Secondly, it will not allow terror within, because Afghanistan is the sanctuary. Earlier, Osama bin Laden used to operate from there. Then he shifted to Tora Bora, and then he went to Abbottabad, the famous Pakistani cantonment town, where he was finally eliminated. But there are other groups. There are groups like ETIM, East Turkestan Independence Movement, which is the challenge for China. There is IMU, Islamic Movement Union, which is a challenge for Uzbekistan. So each neighbor has got some kind of a challenge. Even Iran has got challenge in terms of Iran is Shia, and there are Sunni groups like Jandula who want to operate from here and foment insurgency in provinces like Sistan. So second assurance was no terror groups to be allowed to operate within. And the biggest threat is a new kind of a group, which is ISIS or ISKP, which is Islamic State Khorasan province. The concept of Khorasan is a historic concept. Actually, it includes only parts of southern Iran, Afghanistan, and certain neighboring areas of Central Asian republics. But in its expensive version, in its propaganda avatar, there are people and theologians who say it should also include Kashmir and go to India also. So that is the danger. IS, KP and IS. Now these people have their bases in Nangarhar province, which is one where they have huge big sort of operating spaces over there. So second assurance was no terror within. First one being inclusive, second one no terror within. The third one was that terror will not be allowed to radiate outside. That means it will be capped within, it will be dealt within. So China can rest easy, Uzbekistan can rest easy, Iran can be peaceful, and Pakistan even has danger from TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is an interesting group. Pakistan says Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is a creation of India. Afghanistan and Taliban says that it has been created by the CIA to keep them in check or something like this. And different people have got different sort of connotations about this group. But to Pakistan there is a big danger because it can proliferate that side. As it is in Pakistan, terrorism, earlier they had to do a full-scale operation called as Raad-ul Fasad to put various parts of Pakistan under control. So here, that is the third assurance. Fourth assurance is that there will be basic human rights. And that would also include rights for women who will be allowed education, allowed employment, allowed to be part of the society. And there will be no reprisals. There will be no, and this all was assured by Taliban in Doha process. So everyone was looking at Taliban 2.0. Taliban 2.0. See, I told you that earlier we had Mujahideen, Then we had Taliban, which came to power in 1996, ruled till 2001. So Mujahideens we can call as Taliban 0.0. The Taliban which came to power in 1996 to 2001 can be called Taliban 1.0, and the expectation of the world was Taliban 2.0 with 5 cardinal principles. Inclusivity, no terror within, no terror to radiate outside, basic human rights, no repressions. 5 basic principles. Well, Taliban failed us on that. Earlier, there were talks that Taliban will be headed in a very unique formulation, which was also not being liked, that Mullah Hebatullah Akhundzada will be the spiritual leader, like Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. That kind of he'll be spiritual leader. He'll stay in Kandahar. See, in Afghanistan, what has happened is, it's interesting to know this also. The demography is such that people from rural areas have got displaced. Either they've crossed over the Durand, gone to Pakistan, some have gone to Iran, but within Afghanistan also, about 30 to 40% have got into cities. Cities like Kabul, Herat, Mazar-e-Sharif, Jalalabad and Kandahar. There are 5 cities. Now these cities, Kabul is the capital, which has maximum number of people crammed into it. Herat is towards Iran, Shia dominated city. Mazar-e-Sharif is in the north, Uzbek dominated city. In that city is the mausoleum of Ali. They say that the remains of Ali are entombed over there. But there is another philosophy or theory or story which says no, they are not there, they are in Nasr. So whatever it be, there is a famous blue mosque, and it is spiritually, it is a magnet for people from Central Asian republics. But the real spiritual capital of Afghanistan is Kandahar, where they say there is a cloak, Khirka-e-Mubarak, a kind of a gown which was worn once by Prophet, gifted by one of the rulers to somebody who was visiting Afghanistan, and it is kept in a mosque over there. When Taliban 1.0 came to power, it was led by Mullah Omar. Mullah Omar is a lame person, one-eyed, big fighter. He wore this cloak and he went into a trance and he claimed spiritual powers. So he legitimized himself with that cloak. Now Hebatullah Akhundzada is also reported to be living in Kandahar. Nobody has seen him for months. So the natural question is he alive? Because when Mullah Omar died, his death was announced 2 to 3 years after his death, after he had passed on. Some people say even 4 or 5 years after that. Nobody had seen him. Are they reclusive? Or has somebody eliminated them? So after Mullah Omar, there was Mullah Mansoor, and now is Hebatullah Akhundzada. Now, well, there is a mystery about him. So initially we were told that Mullah Baradar will become the Prime Minister. He will head the Rahbar Council. But that's not happened. That honor has been given to Mullah Hassan Akhund. And Baradar, who was in Pakistan custody for 8 years, released at America's intervention, has been brought down to the level of Deputy Prime Minister. But the mystery is that nobody has seen Mullah Baradar also for last 2 to 3 months. He's not been seen. There has been some audio clipping of him, some video footage released, but he is not in Kabul. Because when this power tussle was going on, when ISI chief had gone to Kabul, it is reported that Khalil Haqqani, he pushed him and there was firing and all this, and after that he is not safe and he is not sure about his own safety. He's run away and he is into some kind of hiding. So there is Hassan Akhund, who is the Prime Minister today. There are two Deputy Prime Ministers. One is Mullah Baradar, second is Maulvi Hanafi, who is an Uzbek. And then there is some people who are at lower level from Tajiks and even Shias, but not at important portfolios. Also, there is this, the control has passed on to Sirajuddin Haqqani, who's the Interior Minister. And see, Americans have left large cache of arms over there. Some have been disabled, but machine guns and other small arms, they are very potent, and they have fallen into hands of these people. And if you study Afghanistan, there is a place called as Darra Adam Khel, which is world's biggest illicit market. People over there can fashion any weapon. So will they be able to improvise these weapons and put them back on road? That's a question we need to ask. So today, what do I make out of it? I make out of it that Taliban, which was promised to us, has not been delivered. We haven't got Taliban 2.0. We have only got Taliban 1.1. Why do I say 1.1? There is just incremental improvement. There is a facade which is being put on, that we will allow women to go to schools but in segregated spaces, but reprisals are taking place. In Herat, people have been put on poles and 13 Hazaras were killed. So they were all security forces, and that included 2 women. So here we are faced with a situation that we have been somehow shortchanged. We have been deceived. We haven't got Taliban 2.0, we've got Taliban 1.1. So how do we take it to 2.0? That's a natural question. The first and most important thing is that this process has to be Afghan-led, Afghan-controlled, and Afghan-dictated. How do we do it? Pakistan has to be somehow brought under control and prevented from meddling in their affairs. Because when the last regime was put in place, Faiz Hamid, ISI chief, had flown over there and he had put this formulation. It is a Pakistan ISI compliant Taliban which is ruling Afghanistan today. There is this discussion which goes on that Taliban has got various shuras, tribal kind of assemblies. There is a Quetta Shura, there is a Helmand Shura, there is a Kandahar Shura, there is a Peshawar Shura, but my take is that the most important is Rawalpindi Shura. They decide who will rule Afghanistan. That has to be told to Pakistan. Can it be done? There are leverages which need to be applied properly. What are those leverages? The one thing which is there is that Afghanistan cannot survive without foreign aid. China is wanting to jump in, but China has limitations. And China is a very smart nation. Unlike Americans, they are not wanting to put boots on ground. They want to outsource the problem and operate through Pakistan. They have their commercial interests in mind. But that commercial interests are not the kinds which can be tapped straight away. That's not possible. They have copper mines of Ayank, gold mines, La Paz, Lapuzi, and all those precious stones. But all those require 6 to 8 years of stability, development, because after all, Chinese leased these mines about 5 years back, but nothing really has happened. And can you operate those mines in a regime where every warlord is going to collect extortion out of it? Will it be commercially viable? So, leverages lie in terms of the fact that Americans have frozen all the assets of Afghanistan which are with IMF, which are with World Bank. Close to 12 billions have been frozen. It can't be given. Can Afghanistan sustain on its drug economy? No, I don't think so. That's not possible. It can do something. It used to collect some taxes in form of transit, but that's also not happening. So leverages have to be applied. Taliban has to be brought to 2.0. The minimum assurances have to be guaranteed, because danger in this lie for us also, Indians also. We did a lot of development projects there. We made a road from Zarans to Dilaram. We were linking Chabar port. Chinese got the railway contract. We were slow in that. And that is basically to skirt and go towards Iran and open that north-south corridor. We also made the parliament. We made power transmission lines. But all that, there is this question people ask, return on investment. Well, my friends, everything is not done for return on investment. In Afghanistan, people respect and love Indians. There are stories about on Tolo channel, which is the TV channel of Afghanistan. One of the most popular serials has been Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, and Smriti Irani is top personality, screen personality, who's liked over there. So we have soft power. We invest in education, we invest in training, but danger for us is when a phenomena like Taliban succeeds in its 1.1 variant, Delta variant, in that kind of a variant, it gives hope to others. It gives sustenance to others, ideological fillip to others. And that's why in Kashmir, what is happening now recently is all derived from that. Because everyone feels that if Taliban can do it, why can't we do it? So, as I come to close of my discussion, because it can carry on, it's a subject that I studied as a colonel in Army War College and got rewarded for it with a medal. I studied it in National Defence College, again got Colonel Pyara Lal medal for it. So it's a subject which is very dear to my heart. I can keep talking on it for days. But allow me to, in very, some say that we need to exercise leverages, and let us not look at Taliban only as a label. Not Taliban 1.0, 1.1, 2.0. No, Taliban is an idea. It's a dangerous idea which needs to be tackled on all fronts. We need to change the mindset. We need to have an inclusive, a tolerant governance in Afghanistan. People over there deserve it. And world will have to stand together, not give ready recognition to this government, hold the purse strings tight. I know there is a humanitarian crisis which is developing, and there is talk that let us send some relief. China has started sending, some is being allowed. They would need vaccination also. But the leverage here again is in terms of they need grains, they need wheat. And two countries who can provide wheat in abundance are America and India. India has got overflowing FCI godowns. Last time we were giving them wheat, Pakistan was not allowing the overland transit, so we converted them into fortified protein biscuits, and they are loved in Afghanistan. So let us sort of smartly work out the leverages, bring Taliban under control, and give Afghan people the government that they deserve.